Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. Here's an interesting tweet from my sponsor, Link to shake up your international transactions with Ripple. With RippleNet, banks can cut their costs by 42%. A quick and affordable solution that makes Ripple a solid investment opportunity. Get in early and invest in pre-IPO on Link 2. Really interesting stuff. They do have Ripple shares available. You can go check it out. linqto.com. Or you can download the app. Now, this is very dangerous from Uphold. The crypto XRP Gestapo does not allow these kind of tweets. I don't know what Uphold's thinking, but this is the second time they've done it. You're not allowed to put out these kind of numbers attached to XRP. A long time ago, back on 9/13/20, They did a tweet called XRP just hit $1,000. What are you tweeting? They just went and did it again. Let's try this again. XRP just hit $1,000. What's your next move? If XRP hit $1,000, folks, I'll tell you what I would do. If XRP hit $1,000, I would call my attorney, my accountant, and my financial advisor, and I would say it's time for us all in one room to have a meeting, because I would need to get my affairs in order. That's what I would do. And that's probably not the same answer that many of you would give, but that's my answer. Zero hedge, gold, $2,580, new all-time high. As dollar craters on expectations of panic 50 BPS rate cut, and as interest on U.S. debt crosses $1 trillion. Does everybody remember the bail-in? This is from the FDIC. Remember when the FDIC was talking about the bail-ins and how we shouldn't let the American public know that that's written into their plans, and how it would, well, just listen. And they laughed at how all we Americans out here think the banking system's safe, but they all know better. Ha ha ha.
It should be there. It should be accessible when people need to know. But I don't think you have much hope of reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank? Like, my insurance company doesn't tell me what they're doing with my assets. They just assume they're going to pay my claim. Right? I think you've got to think of the unintended consequences of taking a public that has more full faith and confidence in the banking system than maybe people in this room do. That we want them to have full faith and confidence in the banking system. They know the FDIC insurance is there. They know it works. They put their money in. They're going to get their money out. So there's a select crowd of people that are in the institutional side. And if they want to understand this, they're going to find a way to understand this. There's a bunch of law firms represented in this room. There's a bunch of people that'll charge them by the hour a lot of money to explain this all to them. And it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And they all have huge staffs. But I would be careful about the unintended consequences of starting to blast too much of this out in the general public.
Be careful about the American retail people knowing the truth. It's okay for our friends in these institutions with their lawyers. It's all our inside game, folks. Well, it turns out it's not just at the FDIC. This is the money illusion from, what's her name? Judy Shelton. And she is recounting a meeting, I think it was the Federal Reserve. It was at the Federal Reserve or the Treasury or both. And she's talking about Janet Yellen, these people that are in power now, folks. This is how these elite, she calls them the economic elite. They laugh at us the same way the FDIC does.
When the decision was made unofficially at the Fed to have a 2% inflation target, that was in July of 1996. And Greenspan said, let's discuss what it means to have our mandate be stable prices. And Janet Yellen was on the board. Greenspan said, why doesn't that mean zero inflation? I think stable prices means that, not stable inflation. And she said, she made the argument, the very Keynesian argument, that, well, money illusion is important for people's state of mind. And if you have a 2% or 3% inflation rate and you need to cut workers' wages by 1% because of an economic contraction, you could still give them a raise nominally of 1 or 2%, but you actually reduced their wages. And she cited a survey which said, we asked workers, if you got a 2% raise and inflation was 2%, would you still be happy? And most of them, not all of them, said, yeah. Of course, I understand that because it's tough to go and keep renegotiating a cost of living increase in your salary. So they said they'd be reasonably happy. But then she said, and it's in the transcripts from that FOMC meeting, she said, looking at all the central bankers around the table at the Fed, you'll be happy to know that we also gave that survey to economists and said, if you got a 2% raise, but there was 2% inflation, would you be satisfied? They said, no, we would not. And then it shows parenthetically there was laughter around the table. And I just think that shows the mindset of an economic elite that thinks we're smart enough to know that a nominal increase in our wages may not make up for the loss in purchasing power, but the average Joe doesn't think like us.
Okay, yes, so they spite you. Now, it is either yachts or a straitjacket for Michael Saylor. MicroStrategy buys an additional $18,300 Bitcoin for $1.11 billion. Now, folks, you want me to tell you what I think the real controversy is? Do you think that Michael Saylor would be buying the Bitcoin the way he is if he did not know what the story was on Satoshi? To me, there's no way that this guy does all this unless he has information that you and I don't have. In other words, they know that the government created Bitcoin, and he's been given assurances, and he's probably tied into some of these three-letter agencies. I would bet dimes to donuts on that. Look at this. We've covered last video the Paul Graywall for the general counsel at Coinbase, where he's showing this snippet from the Binance lawsuit, footnote 6. That's a good thumbnail, footnote 6. I need to write that down. Okay. But anyway, so they're talking about how the SEC basically just lied about this whole idea of digital asset securities. And Tom Emmer, who's in Congress, says, great, then the SEC and congressional Democrats should have no issue with us codifying this in law with the Securities Clarity Act. Meta Lawman had tweeted this. He said, the XRP Army Ripple must be losing their minds right now. Finally, people are realizing what they've been saying for years. Again, much respect, Brad Garlinghouse, Stuart Alderati, and team for refusing to hand over their lunch money to the bully all these years. And it was the first line of the lawsuit, if you look here. From 2013 through the present, defendants sold over 14.6 billion units of a digital asset security called XRP. That's them saying XRP itself is a security, and now they are acknowledging that they lied about this for all these years. What are the repercussions for Gary Gensler, Bill Hinman, Jay Clayton, and the SEC? What are their repercussions for all of the admitted lies that they've done? And then I wanted to point this out. Stuart Alderati just he was tweeting more about all of this, and he says, Ripple's case is over, but the fair notice defense is still alive for others. But I think that this right here says all you need to know. Ripple's case is over. And then Jimmy Valley weighed in on all of this. There is no dispute now that SEC actions coordinated with private digital asset market participants and foreign governmental entities like China materially manipulated the digital asset markets, causing innocent digital asset holders, notably XRP holders, significant damages, multiple trillions. Current SEC and U.S. government leadership does not have the moral and ethical constitution to right these wrongs, as equity and justice require. I think we'll have to wait for Donald Trump to reassume his position as lead executive of the U.S. corporation, and then we can have a settlement that makes the damaged Americans whole. It should be obvious to everyone at this point that the infiltration and attempted takeover of the American financial system was the real Chinese virus. COVID was a top layer distraction. And I said XRP Unleashed is arriving just in time. ETHgate will be shown to the world. You got that right. And then, by the way, speaking of ETHgate, Vitalik Buterin and Ethereum Foundation have sold ETH. For years, all we've ever heard when Ripple transparently told you they were selling, oh, they're dumping on retail and all this stuff. Nobody ever says that when Vitalik dumps on retail to, what did he call it in that video that I put out one time? He said that they were trying to widen their takeoff or widen their, what was the word? I'm drawing a blank here. Getting old, folks. He said they wanted to, anyway, I'll think of it right after I finish the video, I'm sure. And finally, here is Robbie Mitchnick, formerly of BlackRock, or formerly of Ripple, at BlackRock, head of digital assets, talking to the guys that run the Bankless show, who should go ahead and change their channel to Banker Coin Podcast, because Ethereum is the banker's coin, and that's how they made their bones.
The properties that you can build into a system that is tokenized versus our legacy system are immense, right? When you think about liquidity, real-time, instantaneous, riskless settlement, 24/7 trading, the fact that these assets become digitally native, transparent, interoperable, that we can remove a lot of the layers of intermediaries that have had to exist in the current system, right? All these things create massive opportunities for efficiency, for financial inclusion, for access to a wider array of investments in a more efficient way. So that's what gets us excited.
Now, there's two things that I want to show you when we go into DAIXRP.com. One of the people that I've shown you in this video today, I walked up to Chris Giancarlo when I was at XRP Las Vegas, and I told him, I said, I've always thought that this guy right here was the puppet master of all that we've seen in digital assets. I'm going to talk about that when we go into DAIXRP.com. I'm also going to talk to you about a conspiracy. You know, there's many conspiracies where I have never wanted to go, and I just can't really, it was hard for me to believe. One of them would be flat earth. I've never been willing to go in that far. This is another one that until recently, the more I see and the more I've seen of how corrupt all of this, our whole system is now, I'm open to just about looking into anything. And this one is pretty disturbing to me. And we can't talk about it out here because I know I'll be censored, but I'm going to talk about it in DAIXRP. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Away we go.